Hello and welcome back to the TCM YouTube channel for the third of our season previews for the 8 women's regional sides. It is the turn of Western Storm, and joining us is Blake Bint. Blake, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you, Harrison. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for joining us as well. Let's start by taking a look back at the 2022 campaign, 4th in the Rachel Hale Flint group and 3rd in the Charlotte Edwards Cup group. As a whole, what did you make of it for the Storm?
Yeah, I thought they were quite unlucky as a side, to be fair, the Storm. I think the 3 sides that came above them in the Rachel Hale Flint were 3 top quality sides. Southern Viper and Northern Diamonds was a quality final, and a number of England internationals in that side. The Western Storm, I thought they had a good campaign. Like I said, I think they were just lacking that kind of cut above edge. I think they were never in danger of looking like a Sunrisers side to single one out. I thought they looked particularly kind of poor or weak in strength in their squad. So, Western Storm obviously have a few quality players that were picked up in the 100. And, I think they've got potential to build on that this year. And as for the Charlotte Edwards Cup, a change of structure into one league rather than 2 groups could play into their hands, because it's luck of the draw and your familiarity with those sides from the 50 over competition as well. So hopefully, they'll build on that this year.
Hopefully so, but one player who definitely did stand out across both formats last summer was Danny Gibson, a combined 11 wickets and a strike rate well over 100 in both formats. What did you make of her performances?
Yeah, Danny Gibson's particularly strong. I couldn't believe how young she was when I first watched her. Just because her skill seems well past her years of experience. She bowls a really nice angle into the stumps, and then she's got that leg cutter that goes away, and she bowls a decent pace as well in the high 60s mark. So, I think she's particularly quality, and batting at probably 6, I would guess this year. That's roughly where she batted last year. Striking over 100's a crucial thing in the modern game, and that's transferring from the men's game to the women's game as well. With the introduction of more franchise competitions, which I think we'll see her in a lot more as well. She's particularly a good player, and she definitely adds some support to Sophie Luff, who was often stranded on her own from a lack of runs from the rest of the top 4. So it was good to have her in the middle as well.
Just going to touch on Sophie Luff there. She averaged over 50 and Rachel Hale Flint a top score of 100 not out. How valuable it would be to have her again performing like that this season, and if you can get more support around her?
Yeah, I think the support is one of the key things that will make her even better. She had a great campaign. The strike rate only 65, but when you've got a collapsing team around, that's something that's needed, because she was kind of like Joe Root in the England side a couple of years ago, coming in, and it's always 10 for 2. She was brilliant. You mentioned that 100 not out as well, and she had a 95 as well, average of 53. Incredible player, and I thought she was really unlucky not to get an England call up. Still plenty of time for that. Hopefully not while the Ashes are on though, so she can remain available. But incredible player and a good captain as well.
Definitely so. And just on the bowling front, especially in that 50 over competition, Chloe Skelton took 10 wickets and Lauren Filer took 11. How important were those 2 bowlers in trying to lift Western Storm further up the table than where they did finish in the end?
Yeah, they're brilliant. I think the lack of support again, kind of with Sophie Luff with the bat. I think with the ball, it's the same story. Filer and Skelton in double figures, and then your next best is Gibson with 5 wickets. So, in the Hale Flint, that is. So it's kind of slightly underwhelming not to get that support, and I think that might have been the difference between 4th and the top 3. But really positive signs from Filer and Skelton, both young female cricketers coming through. Both got a lot of talent, and showed that as well in the 100 as well. So hopefully they can build on last year's campaign, and like you said as well, just get that extra bit of support, which I think they will get this year.
Other youngsters amongst the Western Storm squad, such as Sophia Smell and Neve Holland, have both had big winters with the under-19 squad and summers as well back in 2022. What did you make of them last year and going forward into 2023?
Yeah, Neve Holland was one I didn't see much of, but obviously it's good to get that recognition, getting the England under-19 side and to play at a World Cup will be something that she's gained invaluable experience from, I'm sure. And Sophia Smale, I think her season last year spoke for itself. Slightly underwhelming in the Rachel Hayhoe Flint, just 2 wickets, but an economy rate of under 5 shows how dangerous she is. Tall left arm spinner, so that's something a bit different from that front. And like I say, that height gives her, and she bowls a good pace, so she gets that bat, which you often don't see in the women's game. And she had a standout 100 competition as well, which got her selected for that competition, the under-19s World Cup. So I think there's definitely big things to come from her this year to support Filer and Skelton ball as well. But also with the bat, a 50 last year as well. So who knows how that's come on over the winter? That could be something that surprises us as well. Did that disconnect halfway through?
Yeah, you were going a bit shaky, then you properly went at surprises. I think you're talking about Smale surprising with the bat.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to do the whole question again or just that bit?
It may be worth because you did freeze for at least 10 seconds. So it's up to you whether you want to.
Yeah, okay. I can go through the whole thing again. Your camera's the wrong way around for me at the moment.
You're wrong way around for me.
Oh, hang on. If I do that. And then... Aha.
Perfect.
I don't know why I've had so many issues.
As I say, run
Is it just
smoothly.
recording,
Yes. Yeah, still recording.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. I think Neve Holland and Sophia Smale are 2 great prospects coming through. Sophia was one I knew a bit more about coming into the under-19s World Cup, but obviously Neve Holland would have gained invaluable experience there, and that'll be something that Western Storm will be hoping she can bring to the side this year. That extra experience, extra game time over the winter is obviously invaluable as well. But Smale, she really made a name for herself in the 100. Really clever bowler, tall left arm as well, so gets that bounce. Good pace as well for a spinner, which you don't often get in the women's game. Really good player. I really liked her in the 100. Slightly disappointing for Western Storm in the 50 over competition, just 2 wickets, but an economy rate under 5 shows how dangerous she was. A bit of a surprise with the bat as well, batting around. I think she batted about 7 last year. I mentioned Gibson often saving Luff in the middle order, but Smale as well got a 50 under her belt. She can hit a long ball as well. So I think hopefully that could be something that surprises us a bit more this summer, and hopefully it'll be the side can develop from their younger players to become a stronger side.
Fingers crossed. But one player at the other end of her cricketing career is Fran Wilson, pillar of England's sides in years gone by, but still playing more an important role for Western Storm, averaging over 37 in the Charlotte Edwards Cup last year, for example. How important is it to have that experience complementing the youngsters coming through?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. I think the youngsters obviously need that extra support and the experienced head in the changing room, and Fran Wilson obviously adds that. Ex-England player, slightly underwhelming from an actual playing perspective last year statistically. Didn't batted 4 all season and didn't even get a half century. So obviously that's slightly disappointing for her and for the Storm, but hopefully she'll pick that up this year. I assume she'll be batting at 4 again. Her partnerships with Luff and potentially the middle order, who are obviously coming through from young ages, will be vitally important, I'm sure. And like I said, just that kind of atmosphere in the changing room. She's got that experience from from the England days, which I'm sure will come on to players they've lost as well. But, Katie George, someone they've lost. Wilson will have to step up to make up for that England experience as well, who they've lost this year. So, hopefully Wilson can add that and help the younger players come through at a great rate.
You mentioned the departure of Katie George there. Also, Fee Morris, who's gone to Northwest Thunder. Katie George herself has gone to Central Sparks. And one other person leaving the club in Georgia Hennessy, stepping away from cricket to pursue other opportunities. There's a fair bit of experience in Nous, if you want to put it that way, from the last few years for this Western Storm side gone. How are they going to go about replacing that, and can they replace that?
Yeah, I think the way it looks, they've taken a bit of a squad cut on the experience side. Like I said, George, obviously, former England player, but only 24 herself. So, hopefully they can find some youngsters to be as good as her in 2 or 3 years' time. Fee Morris was one I was slightly disappointed with because I felt there was a lot more to come from her. And I think she showed good signs when she did play. And Georgia Hennessy was obviously a gutting one as well because, quality player, did really well in the Charlotte Edwards Cup as well. So, potentially she could have added more in the Rachel Hayhoe Flint, but both domestic competitions, I thought Georgia Hennessy could have been crucial this year, but obviously that's gone. In terms of replacements, I think there's a couple of youngsters coming through. Skelton we mentioned, I think she could be potentially George's replacement. And then there's also Emma Corney and Emily Greach, both 19. I think both come through the Western Storm Academy, who I think can both hopefully step up and get more game time and also provide more runs this season as well.
Certainly sounds like there's a bit of a foundation of the next generation as such coming through, but one who's maybe so much still of the old generation in Heather Knight, essentially contracted player by England, didn't play a lot last season or last summer, full stop. She's played by injuries, but likely wanting to be playing games in the build-up to the Ashes, get match ready for those games against the Australians. How important is her role, and how can you see her time at the Storm going?
Yeah, Knight, obviously a brilliant player. One of the best England players of our generation. Male or female, in my opinion. Incredible player, and if she's available, she'll be obviously very useful for the Storm to have. That added experience, kind of like we said, Fran Wilson as well. But, Heather Knight's levels above. No disrespect to Wilson there, but and she adds a lot, not only, like I said, with the bat in the dressing room, but also a very good bowler, very underused. From her own captaincy, she's very modest about that. So, hopefully the Storm can have her available a bit more, and obviously get that game time before the Ashes, where hopefully England can come out on top as well. So. Hopefully it'd be nice to have her back, but at the same time, obviously England will take the priority, and as she gets a bit older, the injuries may become a bit more frequent. So hopefully we can just keep her for the Ashes series.
Hopefully so, but sticking still with players at the club, the ECB have rolled out a host of new professional contracts to each of the 8 women's regional sides. Over the winter, Western Storm have filled these with Sophie Luff, Fran Wilson, Danny Gibson, Nat Rafe, Alice Griffiths, Lauren Filer, Sophie Smell, Chloe Skelton, and one recently in Neve Holland, and there's still one more waiting to be fulfilled by one player. How important is it for the game as a whole to see this being rolled out from the ECB?
Yeah, it's obviously massive. The women's game's been growing, seeing more franchise competitions. The Big Bash, obviously, I feel was one it started with. I'm not 100% sure on that, but then obviously the 100 in the last couple of years, and then the WPL earlier this year in March and the start of April. So I think it's massive, and I'm glad the ECB's recognised that, because it's becoming more and more exciting to watch. I feel every game there's always someone new coming through, and that was demonstrated by the 100. I feel so many sides, full of youngsters. I'm pretty sure Oval Invincibles' average age was about 19. They were incredible. So, and obviously Sophia Smell played for them. So, it's great to see. On the contracted players themselves, obviously some obvious ones in there. I'm not surprised about. And then ones Nat Wraith, Alex Griffiths, feel there's a bit more to come from them. Obviously, the keeper situation, they're all very young. Wraith, Gammon, and there's another one, a 17-year-old girl. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but someone's going to have to step up with the gloves and get some runs. So hopefully Wraith can do that. But then at the same time, the county T20 competition starts this weekend. Beth Gammon playing for Wales, as is Alex. Also Smale as well, I think. So, Western Storm got plenty of players will be playing in that, and they'll obviously be keeping an eye on that. So hopefully they can show what's to come this season as well. So hopefully they can live up to their contracts. Like I said, Griffiths in particular is one who I think has been bigged up by Western Storm, been in Welsh Fire squads, just hasn't quite shown it to 100% of her potential yet, but just 20 years of age. Like I say, I think this Wales game, I think is against Cornwall this Sunday, will certainly be one to keep an eye on.
Well, hopefully the Western Storm players in that game perform well and carry that through into the season, where now we'll have a little bit of fun to wrap this up. Some predictions going into the season. Let's start with the Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy. Obviously, they came fourth in their group as part of the group last year. Where do you see them coming this year?
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned earlier, those sides above them will be pretty difficult to cut above. But, coming from this as someone who is a kind of adopted Western Storm supporter, I'm going to have to put them in the top three. I think there's definitely the potential, and I think Heather Knight's availability will be crucial to that. And obviously, a number of other players as well who key roles last year. But I'm thinking they'll get top three. I think top in the table would be a bit ambitious. They've got a tough game first in Northern Diamonds. So I think that game will really set the mark for the season, see how they get on there. Northern Diamonds obviously defending champions. So I think it'll be tough, but top three hopefully will be what I'm hoping for.
1 moment. Sorry, turn the laptop on charge.
Right.
Do you think similar optimism in Charlotte Edwards Cup too, or struggle in that one?
No, I think same optimism. I think last year, the Rachel Hayhoe Flint, they probably showed a bit more depth and quality. Like I said, Charlotte Edwards Cup, they've lost Georgia Hennessy, but as well as mentioned earlier, the change of structure, the familiarity of playing the same sides. There's no luck of the draw what group you're in. So, obviously, like I said, the Rachel Hayhoe Flint is the competition we start with. So that'll obviously be a big contributor to get just sort of an insight at the start of the season to see how the Charlotte Edwards Cup will go. But if we're looking at the likes of Smale and Gibson, if they can do what they did in the Charlotte Edwards Cup last year and the 100 as well, I think they'll be right up there again in the knockout stages. So hopefully, like I said, similar to the Rachel Hayhoe Flint, hopefully they can get up there, and I think they've certainly got the capability to.
I think it's fair to say there's a bit of renewed optimism from yourself for Western Storm this season, and maybe it might even lead to a piece of silverware by the end of the season in September. But thanks everyone for joining us for what is now our third regional preview for the women's side. Thank you, Blake, for joining us, and stay tuned for more to come in the coming days. Thank you.